All right, guys, we are live. I got a new camera and a new halo light, and I swear it is just a spotlight. So, okay, cool. All right, I'm still adjusting it. I apologize. There we go. All right, and now I'm having to focus on the actual ring light rather than myself. So we're trying new things. We're modernizing. Okay. Well, guys, thank you very much. This topic apparently kind of caught fire. So we got a lot of people on Facebook, a lot of people on social media who've been waiting for this topic. So I'm probably going to go long on this one, guys. I got a lot of tech to talk about, so I'm going down the rabbit hole on this one. So a lot of you like not so mechanically savvy guys, buckle up because this one will be interesting. But I wanted to cover a couple things first and just talk real briefly. So this week's going to be a little crazy for me and a couple other guys on our staff. And so we're really, really hoping to get the really fun Yamaha visibility spout video done. That's the big thing for us, is making sure to get that visibility spout video locked and loaded and out this week. That's for a lot of the newbies, a lot of the new people who are new to personal watercraft, don't really know much about like the visibility spout and what it does and how to disconnect it. So for you hardcore guys, you can pass that one up. But for fun, I also show you how to turn it into a squirt gun, and that's a fun video. It's going to be short. It's going to be like 4 or 5 minutes long, but that one will be a good one, and that should come out. I'm hoping Wednesday, but at least before the end of this week. That's the plan. That was the big thing. Then, believe it or not, I still have 2 reviews of 2020 Yamahas I got to get done. One on the is it EX Deluxe or EX Sport? And then I have one on the VX, one of the VX models, VX Cruiser, I think. I have to double check my notes, but I'm working on scripts for those as well. So anyhow, I know I'm looking at 3 different things right now. I got my 2 screens. I got my camera here in the center. So I apologize if I look like I'm Captain ADD just looking all over the place. And then I got my notes and I got my phone down here. So 5 things. I'm looking at 5 things. All right. So let's, okay. So that's upcoming stuff right now. I was going to address something. A lot of guys, and I'm going to do this as nicely as I can. I'm more than happy to help out and answer questions. And usually I do it here. And I do it in the comment section on the Watercraft Journal, which is the magazine. That is the core. The core of this business is the magazine at www.watercraftjournal.com. That's where we publish new articles every single day, Monday through Friday. That is our bread and butter. The YouTube channel is part of the magazine. So it's not a YouTube channel with a blog. It is a magazine with a YouTube channel. Number 2 is I've talked about this before, and it's kind of tough. I'm more than happy to answer a lot of tech questions, but I'm not going to tell you what to buy. Number 1, you're an adult. Make your own decision. My job is not to tell you what to buy. Okay. My job really is to give you all the information there is. Frankly, I'm not judge, jury, and executioner. That's not what I'm paid to do. That's not what I even started this to do. My job really is to give you all the information I can and to point out what we found that we like, what we found that needs improving, what stuff we just really didn't like. And I've gotten attacked by some people who are like, well, you don't trash anything. Everything's great with Kevin. Usually, yeah. There's nothing out on the market that's hot, flaming garbage. If you go into a dealership, nothing's trash. There really isn't. Okay? But what might be great for you is not great for another guy. And so I try to walk that line and be like, hey, listen, not everyone is cut out for an RXP X300. Not everyone is cut out for a GP 1800R SVHO. Not, maybe your riding ability puts you more like in the EX Deluxe or the VX Cruiser or the GTI 130, category. So I have to walk that line. I'm talking last year, quite frankly, last year the magazine reached 1.6 million people. That's a lot of people. All right. That's not 1,200 people a month like some magazines. That's not 1,000 people a week like some web blogs. All right. 1.6 million people in a year is a considerable audience. So it's important that I am able to be neutral and provide, and it's not just me, it's the people who write for us, it's everyone involved. And we're trying to put out content that is, quite frankly, as level-headed and as less personal opinion as possible. If it's just personal opinion, you can be some dude on a YouTube channel, you can be some guy with a blog and mouth off all day, and that's great. If I was independently wealthy, I'd probably be doing that. Let's be honest. If I didn't have to worry about an actual business and paying payroll and paying the 8 people who work for me, then yeah, I would just sit there and be like, this is crap. That's great. I like this. But guess what? I also wouldn't be able to get, invited to a lot of events either, and get invited to test ride a lot of stuff either. All right. Those guys don't get invited to these events. Those guys don't have inside communication with Sea-Doo or Yamaha or Cowie. All right. Because they're jerks. And they're like, why should we talk to this guy? He's just an angry dude with an axe to grind. So that's, again, the difference between a professional publication and then a guy with a blog. I hope that makes sense. But what I wanted to say was I got a very nice text message in the middle of the night from France from a very nice guy. He's a fan of the magazine, fan of the YouTube channel, and was like, hey, what should I buy, an RXPX or a GP? And then he asked me, he's like, well, can you detail all the differences in this text message? And I was very respectful. I didn't want to, he's a fan and I'm not upset, but I was like, dude, that's kind of why we write articles. That's why we do videos. So you're going to want to read those articles. You're going to want to watch those videos. You should be able to get all the information you can. I'm not going to tell you which to get. So again, there's people who are like, tell me what to buy. I'm not going to do that. So take that for what it's worth. Okay. So I'm going to skip that. I don't need that. Let's talk about engine exhaust. All right. And people are already asking me like, well, what should I get, a through hole exhaust or should I get a free flow exhaust? And but you were pissed. Very nice email, but you were pissed. Oh, no, I wasn't pissed. Anyway, I can't tell you which one to buy, but I will tell you what happens mechanically. Because I would rather have you be informed and get a little education and know what's happening with your watercraft and with your engine and have you make that decision. I'd rather have smart people making their own decisions than a bunch of sheep who are like, yes, sir, no, sir. All right. Hopefully you agree with me on that one. Otherwise, this is going to be a long conversation. Okay. So let's talk engines. And I have a totally non-personal watercraft set of props here to help, but we're going to talk about cylinder heads and cylinders and compression and intake and exhaust and all the kind of fun stuff. So hang on tight. All right. This is a brand new Trick Flow 240 Chrysler 440 aluminum head. Okay. This is going on an engine I'm building right now. I'm waiting on a set of roller lifters, but I wanted to use this as our primary example of how engines operate and what to be looking for. All right. This head, all right, is actually really impressive, and it's going to give us a lot of information that we could use here in tonight's discussion. So what's happening? Oh, let's bring my piston that I've now used. I think I've used this probably 6 times now. Hope you guys don't mind seeing it, but it makes for a good prop. So let's turn this around. Okay, this is not a Hemi head. Okay, for you guys who don't know, this is not a hemispherical Hemi Mopar head. This is a wedge head. Okay, this is a Hemi piston. So these do not work together. So I apologize, but a lot of you guys are going to be laughing because they're like, well, these don't jive. So what's interesting here is, see this big port, this big giant rectangle here? That's 240 CFM. That's 240. That's, in fact, why it's called a 240 is because it's a 240 CFM intake runner. Okay. The exhaust runner on these heads is demonstrably smaller. It's 74 CFM. Okay. So why on earth, if you want to draw in all this air and fuel, why wouldn't you want the exhaust to be as big? Right? Doesn't make sense, does it? Actually, it makes perfect sense. Because what an exhaust system is designed to do, it's designed to evacuate spent gases, the spent gases and fumes, okay? And the way to evacuate those efficiently is to do so via scavenging, okay? Scavenging is going to be the word here, okay? Scavenging is, in this instance, pulling out, all right? It's literally pulling out, okay? Now, why? I know I'm going to need this again. I'm going to be pulling it back up again, all right? Why it's so important is because, well, I want to talk about atmosphere a little bit. All right. Atmosphere is very interesting, and it's going to come back. And that atmosphere inside of the cylinder. Okay. So the piston's going up and down the cylinder. When it's on that, okay, when it's finished the power stroke, it's burned everything, and we've pulled it all down. Now we're going to be on the exhaust stroke. And the exhaust stroke is going to push all that, big, massive, big miasmic cloud of burnt gas and burnt air, okay? The inside of the cylinder, before the valve, the exhaust valve opens up, you have, on average, and this depends on different engines, but on a naturally aspirated engine, for this instance, you have anywhere between 6 and 7 times the outside atmosphere. So outside of, let's just talk about just an engine on an engine stand. So you have exhaust running out. Here, I'm going to get my visual aid here. Okay. So we have our intake valve and exhaust valve. And here's our exhaust runner. So imagine a tube coming off of this. And before this valve before the spring gets pressed down and that valve opens up, you have 6 to 7 times the outside atmosphere, all right, as you do outside. So what happens is that as soon as that valve opens up and that piston starts pushing it up, the pressure itself is being blown out. Okay, so on its own, the exhaust is being blown out. So that's number one. Okay, So that's good. Now that exhaust and all these spent gases, as they get pushed out, all right, and this is actually really neat. This is a neat little information, is that as soon as that valve opens up, there is a pulse, and I want to make sure I get this right. Yeah, as the exhaust valve opens up, the pressure wave that leaves out literally leaves at the speed of sound. All right, at 761 miles per hour or 1,100 feet per second. That pulse goes boom and shoots out. Okay, and because that pulse shoots out so fast, it literally creates. All right, it's literally creating a pressure differential, and that pressure differential is also sucking or pulling that exhaust out as well. All right, so you have inside atmosphere, and then you have that pressure differential being pushed out. Okay, so you have two forces working on the exhaust pulse going out. That's really good. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting. Back pressure is bad. Back pressure is bad. Like 99.98% of the time, back pressure is bad. Okay? Because what back pressure is the opposite. Back pressure is the opposite direction of flow. Now, the only reason why back pressure is good, the only reason why, is in two instances. Number one, back in the old days when guys were first learning how to hot rod engines, they would literally build a motor and be sitting on an engine stand, and they'd hook it up. They'd hook the fuel pump up to a jerry can full of gas, and they'd sit there with a radiator on a stand with a fan, and they'd fire the engine up without any headers on it, and no exhaust, no manifold, nothing. Okay. And it would just be open, like just exactly as you see it right here. They wouldn't have anything hanging off of it. Well, exhaust just going out of this hole has no pressure differential. Does that make sense? There's nothing to help draw it out, just the internal atmospheric pressure. All right. Now, the problem is that the internal atmospheric pressure doing this is not enough to get not enough to be efficient to get all the exhaust out of the cylinder. So a good measured exhaust system that is long enough and has the right diameter is going to maintain velocity longer than anything else. Does that make sense? Have I lost anyone? Okay. Because without a tube, without an exhaust system, there's no, that pressure wave going boom and shooting out of here has nowhere to go but outside. All right. Now, an exhaust system that runs off of this and is properly measured off of the size of the engine and off the size of the cylinder head and off the size of the exhaust. All right, the exhaust runner, excuse me, I got so many things running through my head, is when you have a properly measured, engineered exhaust system that works with this setup, you're going to have a pressure differential. All right, you're going to have that pressure wave that is going through the system, and if it's not slowly or minorly losing velocity, because it'll eventually lose velocity, it's going to slow down because it's not a straight shot, and exhaust systems are not straight either. So it's going to go ding, 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 ding. And it's going to ping pong all, that wave. Those waves are going to ping pong all the way down the exhaust system. All right. And it's going to slow down. It's just naturally going to slow down. You want to maintain velocity. Any exhaust system, you want to maintain velocity for as long as possible. All right. It's very hard. You can't speed it up. Well, you can, but there's that goes down the rabbit hole of other stuff. Now, here's something else that slows down exhaust systems. or it slows down the exhaust pulse. And if you slow down that exhaust pulse, you are losing. You're going to lose that draw. You're going to lose that pull. Okay, and we really want to delay that as long as possible. And the way that it slows down is in exhaust systems that taper really fast or actually expand really fast. And this is where we're going to get into the free flow exhaust versus the through hull exhaust. Okay, and this is all leading to a point. I promise. I'm not going to lose this. Is that, for example, everyone's seen a dragster, all right, with a top fuel dragster, 9,000 horsepower. It's got zoomy headers coming out of it. The pipes that just do this, all right. They're like 3 feet long, and it's just a pipe that just goes from the cylinder head all the way out. There's nothing. It's a gradual curve. There's no hard curves at all. All right. That's optimal. That's optimal for that application because there's so much internal pressure. There's so much internal pressure. There's so much internal atmosphere inside of those cylinders that it doesn't need a really long tube to help evacuate those gases. It's using all that pressure inside of the engine. Okay, they're making 9,000 horse upwards to 14 to 15,000 horsepower. And when a top fuel dragster goes off, it literally creates the same seismic registry as a 6.0 earthquake. I'm not joking. They actually will have seismic graphs and Richter scales at like the Gator Nationals in Florida, and they will literally trigger off 5.5, 5.8, 6.0 earthquakes when John Force takes off. That's how much power those things are making. Okay. And it's not the tires doing that. All right. It is seismic. It's actually seismic pressure. It's the shock wave. When I said it's going off at the speed of sound, that's what's happening. All right. Has anyone been to an air show and had the Blue Angels fly over and they crack off and they break the sound barrier right above everyone and it literally shakes everyone? That's what's happening. Okay. So let's back up a little bit. So we talked about the dragsters with the dragster headers. All right. They don't need a long system because the long system doesn't really it's not necessary for those applications. But your Chevy pickup truck, your Toyota Camry out on the road, okay, couple things are going on with those exhaust systems. First and foremost, what does the manifold look like? All right. The exhaust manifold coming right out of that cylinder head goes into what they call a log manifold. It looks like a big single piece. All right. It's a big long log, a big long tube. And literally the exhaust has to, as soon as the exhaust leaves this port, it makes a 90-degree turn and goes all the way down. All the way, and that collects and collects and collects all four, if it's a V6, all three of them. And then a big collected exhaust tune goes out. Well, thankfully, engine tuning today, these exhaust manifolds that we see, even on a Toyota Camry, even on a little four-banger, all right, they actually are like a cast header. So you'll see the runner, instead of making a hard 90-degree, hopefully, they're making a more of a gradual turn. And why do you do that? Because that signal, all right, that wave wants to go out unabated. So if that signal goes out and goes boom, hits a wall and has to turn, it's losing velocity really, really fast. All right, you're scrubbing a lot. You're scrubbing a lot of evacuation there. All right, you're scrubbing a lot of vacuum. So that's why a gradual manifold, or if you got like a hot rod, I mean, like my 69 Charger, my 70 Super B, we got long tube Doug Thorley headers on both of them. Well, what's the difference with a long tube header? All right. And this is what I'm getting into. I'm getting into the nitty gritty here, but ride this wave with me. So the header, if you look, it's got the headers I'm running. I used to have 1 7/8, but once I went through the heads, I had to go bigger. And so I went up to a 2-inch a 2-inch tube that gradually rolls out. Okay. Hey, we got our first super chat. Planeta Tierra. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. And make sure to, if you have any questions, oh, look at you. You've been asking all sorts of questions. Okay. All right. So the header now goes into a 2-inch tube. And anyone who knows about cars and knows about hot rods, all right, put this one down. All right. I got 4 2-inch tubes, and they go into a single collector. All right. And that collector reduces down to 3 inches. Well, here's where we come into a problem. And even though it's a pretty well designed header, when you take all of that volume, that exhaust volume coming into a single tube into that collector and reducing down to 3 inches, okay, what happens is that I'm creating at that point, when it reduces, reverse waves, okay, reverse pressure or back pressure for that matter, okay. That reverse pressure that reflects that as it shrinks, and I shrink it down, it bounces back a pressure wave. Okay. Now, thankfully, that pressure wave is as powerful as the reduction itself. So I might reduce down from 4 inches to 3 inches, and so I'm losing an inch. Well, that lost volume is only 1 inch. And so it's only a quarter. So I'm only losing a quarter of my velocity that's leaving out there. Okay. Equally, if I was to take my truck, and it's got my 05 Dodge Ram beat up, shop truck, and I was to uncork I have short tube headers on it. So if I uncork the manifolds or I uncork those short tube headers, that truck's going to run like crap. Okay. Well, why is that? There's 2 things happening. If I uncork my factory exhaust or my short tube header exhaust on my truck's not built. It's got a tune on it and a couple of little things on there, but it's not hot by any means. Okay. And what happens is that if I uncork that exhaust, I'm losing all of that velocity. Okay. It's that short tube, and all of a sudden it just goes boom right up to atmosphere. All right. And that's 1 atmosphere. That's the outside ambient atmosphere. So I go from 6 or 7 times the atmosphere out to 1. All right. That pressure moves out, and that pressure, that's working. But the other half of this is that I'm losing all of that velocity out of the exhaust that could pull it out even better. All right. So how does this work to Watercraft? Well, couple things. First and foremost, very few people, the guys at CRT Racing are not listening to anything that I have to say, and I don't expect them to. All right. The hardcore race guys who are in the hydro drags do not need to listen to any of this. All right. This is to the normal guy who's like, I want to hop up my ski. What's going to give me some extra power? Okay. Well, let's be real honest here. Very few of you, I should say that, very few of you are changing your whole exhaust system. Very few of you are changing from the exhaust manifold to the water box. Now, here's the thing. I actually advocate getting an aftermarket water box. I really do. And I'll tell you why in a second. Okay. But what's a factory exhaust system look like? It's a log style manifold, just like the Toyota Camry example I gave you, which is not ideal. All right. Because it's hard turns. You're losing a lot of velocity. So you got hard turns that all collect into one tube that run right into the water box, the factory water box. And then from the factory water box, it breaks off and it goes into a resonator. All right. And it's typically a big plastic, molded plastic resonator. And then from the resonator, it goes out, makes a hard turn, and leaves, for Yamaha and Sea-Doo, it leaves out of a port in the pump tunnel. It's really important we talk about this. Kawasaki is the only one who's running their exhaust out the hull in the back. So you don't have to drill a hole if you want to put through hull exhaust. Cowie does it for you. Okay. Well, here's the benefit. All right. And this is a little interesting, but believe it or not, the pump tunnel itself. And if you've ever sat on the back of a jet ski and as it's going at speed and looked backwards, like if you're towing a raft or whatever, what do you see when you sit backwards and someone else is driving and you look at the water directly behind the transom, right behind the swim step? You are seeing a pocket where the pump tunnel and then the thrust is coming out of the nozzle. All right. Believe it or not, inside of that pump tunnel, you have naturally created negative atmosphere. All right. You're creating a vacuum as you go. You're going 45 miles an hour on your ski, and you look behind you and you look at the wake coming out. Inside of that pump tunnel is a vacuum. All right. It's not strong. It's not going to pull your shirt off, but it's a vacuum. Well, guess what that vacuum does? That's negative atmosphere. All right. It's not sitting on a trailer in the parking lot with the engine running. That's one atmosphere. That's standard atmosphere. Okay. So as you're going in the water and that pump tunnel is actually creating suction, not only is your piston pushing exhaust out and your exhaust system is drawing exhaust out, the very end of the exhaust system is literally sucking exhaust out of there too. So that's why it's a very efficient exhaust system. All right. Now, you will pick up velocity. You will pick up exhaust velocity with a free flow exhaust. The single tube running, just pull all the plastic resonator crap off, and you put a single mandrel bent tube that runs from the water box to the hull exit. You're eliminating the resonators, all right? The sound diffuser stuff. And the sound diffuser stuff is just trying to mitigate, it's trying to lower sound amplitude, all right? But that gets into a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you pull all that plastic resonator crap off, all right, and they don't get very hot, all right. That's hot exhaust. Pretty much, I won't say it ends at the water box, but it really saps a lot of that heat out in the water box. So if you take all that resonator stuff off, the water box itself, from the water box itself all the way to the pump or to the pump exit, it's doing all the work for you. It's literally sucking the exhaust out of the water box. Now, why do I advocate an aftermarket water box? There's not a lot of people. This is actually kind of funny to me. The automotive, motorcycle, off-road industry is sick with exhaust companies. And there's really not a lot of exhaust guys in personal watercraft. There's plenty of guys who will tell you how to go in and cut open your water box and gut it. But then they don't really know why they're gutting it. All right. And this is why I wanted to talk about something else, is that a water box is basically a muffler. And there's only two kinds of mufflers. All right. There's a reflective muffler, and then there's an absorption muffler. Okay. And a reflective muffler is the ones you cut open and you see a bunch of walls. Okay. A bunch of chambers. You see like little chevrons and little boxes and all that kind of crap. Okay. And what happens is that the exhaust goes into that muffler and it hits the first wall. It's got to go here. And then it's got to go here. And it's got to be like Pac-Man going all through the muffler. And what that's doing is that's trying to reflect and break apart that sound amplitude. All right, it's breaking apart that pulse wave. Well, what does that also do to your velocity? It really scrubs the heck out of your exhaust velocity. Okay. Now, if you look at an absorption muffler, the absorption muffler is the muffler that you can hold up and look straight through it, and you'll be like, oh, there's a straight tube in here. But if you look, that tube has got a bunch of perforations, got a bunch of holes all the way down it. All right. And on both sides of that tube, they've packed it full of either like fiberglass or, there's a bunch of different insulation. I mean, they jokingly say it's the same kind of insulation you put in your walls. Not necessarily true. But the absorption style muffler, all right, I know this is automotive and they don't do this in Watercraft, but the absorption style muffler does not slow down. Well, I mean, it does, but barely slows down the velocity of the exhaust gases. All right, it's a straight shot, goes straight through it. All right, but what the perforations do is because that the exhaust pulse, that wave is doing this, it literally breaks off into the perforations, and it will actually break down and slow down the actual sound amplitude. Okay. Hey, we got another one. Takemo Pen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's another super chat. This is great, guys. Thank you so much. So anyway, I wanted to give a shout out, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Now here's the other thing so let's talk about water boxes. Let's talk about personal watercraft water boxes. There are some water boxes that, believe it or not, are both chambered and absorbing. And I've seen some cut open where it looks like it doesn't look like it's rifled, but it looks like it looks like the cooling tube for a machine gun, where it is a perforated tube. And the perforated tube, it has a wall, so it goes through the wall, and then the other perforated tube is actually, it's actually stepped, so there is a little bit of reflection, and so it does break up that pulse. All right, but if you look at like a Riva water box, and you look inside, they've highly minimalized the chambering, and they have tried to become more of an absorption water box or a muffler. And so that the tube has a bunch of holes or serrations on it, and they're letting the chambers, they actually will put chambers around that tube. And so they'll it'll be both a reflective and a absorbing muffler. All right. And plus, as it fills with water, that water is helping to deaden and muffle or absorb a little bit of that sound amplitude. Okay. Modifying water boxes is an old trick from the 80s with the stand-up guys, the 440s and the 550s. They'd go in there and they'd gut the hell out of them, and it'd just be a tube. All right. And so they're not really doing a whole heck of a lot to get the job done. All right. They're just there because the Coast Guard makes them have one. And yeah, I mean, there is a safety precaution about, like, if you roll over, that's kind of the baffle. But if your engine is submerged, water's going to intrude anyway. It's going to come up the valves. It's going to get in the engine. It's going to get there anyway. So the water box helps, but it's not a silver bullet. But thank you for the question. So, douche Go Tech LX. Sorry. Hopefully LX means you're working on late model Mopars. But anyway, so anyhow, what's the purpose of the exhaust filter on the Kawasaki's? Why doesn't anyone else have them? Which exhaust filter are you talking about? You're not talking the resonator. Oh, is that the flame arrestor? Luke, are you talking about the flame arrestor? Okay. Anyway, so that's really one of the big things. So why I'm very interested in the through hull exhaust versus the free flow exhaust, and why it's they call it a filter. God, okay, Luke, if you can find me a link, I'll click the link and I'll see. I'm just not sure what you're talking about, but I'm happy to have this conversation because I am curious. So don't think I'm tuning you out. I'm not questioning you. I am curious. So what do you gain or what do you lose when you go through a through hull? Okay. If you have a modified water box, all right, that is designed to maintain exhaust velocities, all right, a through hull exhaust will should hopefully maintain equal velocity as the exhaust that's being pulled out of the pump or out of the pump tunnel. It doesn't touch the pump. Please don't say Kevin says the exhaust goes out through the pump. It doesn't. It goes out through the pump tunnel. The pump tunnel. So anyway, that vacuum at speed helps a free flow exhaust operate, in fact, better. If you're talking a stock water box to stock water box, the free flow exhaust at speed will work better than the through hull. It's guaranteed. And it's guaranteed because of the negative atmosphere that occurs naturally inside of the pump tunnel. Now for Kawasaki, and Kawasaki's got their through hull. Now the through hull, to my understanding, is simply because they're running out of real estate. All right. It's a big engine. It's a huge intercooler and a big water box. Everything's big on the Cowie. All right. You got the giant Eaton TVS. All right. That's a twin vortices supercharger, TVS. I actually know the guys at Eaton. In fact, I have a Zoom call with Eaton on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Let me look at my calendar. Thursday after. No. Wednesday at 5 p.m. I actually have a Zoom call with the guys at Eaton, and I know a lot of them who were involved in the TVS supercharger build for the Kawasaki application. And that supercharger is not being used to its full extent. That supercharger is badass. There's something there. And I've actually had conversations with Marty and the guys at K-Speed about it, and they're like, yeah, we know. The problem is the engine. If we push the supercharger further, we hurt the engine. And so just between some car guys, I'm going to tell you right now, the TVS supercharger on the Cowies is internally, there's some engineering in there that's pretty badass. But the through hull, oh, that's the other note. I have the note here. I got 2 pages of notes. If you see me looking down, I got 2 pages of notes. Here's the other thing, guys. Anyone who's ridden on the back of an Ultra knows what kind of wake they produce. All right. The Ultras, because they weigh so much and they're such a deep displacement hull, a true deep V. When Yamaha and Sea-Doo want to say that it's a deep V hull, it's a marketing term. Kawasaki's got a deep V hull, and it's a displacement style hull. All right. And if you guys want to talk about hull designs, I did a whole video for like an hour and a half on hull designs. So the Kawasaki deep V hull, literally not as much as inside of the pump tunnel, but creates such a displacement of air behind it. There is draw. Okay. There is actual draw at speed. It's just not as. I would be interested to put a barometric sensor on the back of these things, because I'm curious. Let's say 50 miles an hour. I would be curious to know how much negative atmosphere happens inside of the pump tunnel of an RXTX 300 versus a Cowie 310 off of the back transom? Because I bet you there's still more negative atmosphere in the pump. I'd be willing to bet. But then again, I've never cracked open an Ultra's water box. I wonder if the Ultra's water box is a absorption style water box rather than a chambered water box or a reflective water box. Because I know that the Sea-Doo's water box is a reflective water box. That's an intellectual question for me. I'm just curious. But anyhow, so there's something else that happens with the through hull. Okay. And the through hull, stock water box to stock water box. Engine is either stock or the engine has got a tune on it. You're also losing. Well, you're losing that negative atmosphere off the back. Okay. So let's say you got an RXPX or an RXTX. Let's use Sea-Doo for an example. All right. Because lots of guys are modifying Sea-Doos. Lots of guys are jumping on Sea-Doos and they're wanting to tune it. So, what happens is that if you go from, instead of the pump, you go out of the hull, what happens is that you're losing that negative atmosphere. All right. And now you have less draw. And that less draw means that the exhaust is slowing down. Okay. It's literally slowing down before it exits the back of the ski. And what happens, this is a very good question. What happens if the exhaust pulse, we're not worried about the gases so much, but what happens with the exhaust pulse slows down too much? Okay. What happens is that now you get that negative pulse backwards. Okay. You get that reverse pulse. And that reverse wave is also taking with it exhaust gases back all the way into the cylinder. It literally, as the valve is still open, it's letting gas or let exhaust fumes get back in here. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Even on a healthy engine, there's going to be a reverse pulse on every engine, on every single engine. It could be microscopic. It could be really bad. And if you've dramatically slowed down the velocity of your escaping gas, you have hurt the engine tune because now you've got far more spent gas in the cylinder than it's supposed to have. Yes, it reduces scavenging. Correct. Thank you. All right. You are slowing down that velocity and you're reducing the scavenging. Perfect. I couldn't thank you more, Piston Burn, for that. That's a perfect addition. So what do you do? What happens? Well, you can fix that. If you have to have through hull exhaust, call Riva. When you buy their through hull, say, I got to have the water box too. Oh, okay, no problem. They'll be happy to sell it to you. All right. Tell them Kevin sent you. I don't get commission, but I have friends there. But you got to find a way to keep that velocity up. All right. You got to keep the velocity up. And even a tune is not going to change the cam grind. All right. Tuning the engine doesn't change hard parts. And the hard parts literally are programmed to open a valve at this time, open a valve at this time, close it here, close it here, open it here, open it here, close it here, close it here. All right. Those hard parts are timed and they cannot change this. All right. I mean, unless you got, VVT or VTEC, Volvo has the adjustable cams. I know Honda's got adjustable cams, but no Watercraft have adjustable cam timing. So you can't change that. So that's kind of the problem is why don't any other skis have them? Have what? filter comp muffler. Oh, valve overlap creates. Well, yes, it does. Now, the problem is that that's stupid. Every episode I fight this stupid mouse, and I haven't fixed it yet. Yeah, there's going to be valve overlap, and thankfully, valve overlap. What valve overlap is typically doing is that valve overlap is allowing for, because what's happening to the piston as valve overlap happens? It's drawing. Okay. So that valve overlap is also helping push out spent gases because you have clean air also coming out. So now if you got crazy valve overlap, then we've got another problem, but no one here is really changing camshafts and no one here is really messing with that kind of stuff. Your water box. Oh, guys, Scott, that's terrible. Oh, look at, okay. I hate saying douche, man, but it's great. No, good answer. Thank you for looking that up. Okay. Is basically a vane mist extractor. Okay. It's basically a check valve. Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you for looking that up. I wasn't sure what he was talking about. I'm glad you looked that up. Douche, thank you very much. I appreciate that input. So, what's going on? Should you put a through hull exhaust on? Number one, I don't like drilling holes into the hull of a ski. That's me personally. I've done it. I've done it on 2 skis. It sounds cool. It's noisy as hell. But guess what? It can be really noisy, and then you get really bad droning. And why do you get drone? Because what's happening now is you've gotten rid of the resonator, and you haven't changed your water box. And so that pulse wave, all right, that amplitude, that sound amplitude is not being muffled. It's not being reflected at any point. And that is the raw sound amplitude coming out of the back of your ski. And that could drive you bananas. All right. That'd just drive you freaking up the wall. And, well, you know what, Luke? Think about it. No. That's a good question. Why is that? I bet you, oh man, I bet you $5. I bet you that the inside of that Cowie that Cowie water box has almost zero chambering. I'd be curious to know. If someone has pictures of an Ultra 310 water box cut open, please send them to me. I'm curious. Because I bet you, that if you look inside a Sea-Doo, I've looked inside of a Sea-Doo one. I've seen pictures of the inside of the 300 water box, and that's a really heavily chambered water box. So, quite frankly, they're not looking at water intruding up back through there. I haven't seen the inside of a Yamaha SVHO water box, so I'm curious about that one too. Sadly, I'm going into this a little blind. Yeah, they use the exhaust flappers. Yeah, I've seen those. Okay. I feel like I've been all over the map here, but I do believe that I have hit everything. Because again, there's something else too. There's something else that is interesting to me, and it doesn't happen so much in personal watercraft as it does motorcycles and cars. And that is what happens to the refracting of the sound pulse as you go from, like I was talking about my header tubes. The header tubes go from 2-inch to 3-inch, and then I go to exhaust. Now, what happens if what happens if I'm a hillbilly and I piece an exhaust system together, and I've got a bunch of really tight turns, and those tight turns all of a sudden crush, and then they expand open, and then it goes to a big muffler, and then it compresses back down. And so the exhaust is doing this the whole time. Okay. Well, if the exhaust is doing this the whole time, I'm killing my velocity, which in turn is killing my scavenging effect. All right. Because the sound pulse is being sped up. It's slowing down. All right. And so now I've got a really wonky exhaust pulse that is not doing a good job. It's not a tuned exhaust system. And that's why you hear a lot of people, like you'll hear some Mustang go down the street and he's put on some wonky Chinese knockoff exhaust that's like a wannabe MagnaFlow, but it's not as nearly as good as a MagnaFlow system. And it just goes, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is that horrible sound? And it's this guy in this Mustang tearing down the road, and you're like, dude, what'd you do? And it's because he's jacked the exhaust system with 5 different brands and 3 different sizes. And that exhaust note that's coming out of there is a multiple reverberation. If only it was a visible sign, if you held up like a piece of paper to the back, I bet you would suck in and pull out and suck in and pull out and suck in and pull out rather than just going poof, 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 blowing out. Okay. Because that signal is totally broken and that signal is totally erratic. So if you see guys who are going and putting through hull exhaust on, but they haven't modified the engine at all and they haven't modified the water box at all, what they're getting is an unbroken raw amplitude pulse coming out of the back of the ski. Okay. And it's unhealthy. It's an unhealthy exhaust note. They're literally losing power. They're noisy as hell, but they're losing power. It's okay. I got it. I'm going to make fun of it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but guess what? The dudes who do through hull exhaust without doing anything more than maybe a tune, you're no better than the goofy coffee can Honda Civic kids who are hopping on the Fast and Furious train in 2000, 2001, 2002. All right? I'm not trying to be a jerk, but all those guys who went and put like 6-inch diameter coffee cans on the back, on the back of their stock exhaust on a VTEC Honda, and they put a little tune on there, and it sounds like a pregnant sheep going down the street going, meh, meh. You're like, what is that terrible sound? It's because it's literally losing power. All right. The exhaust note does not know what it's doing because the exhaust is coming out of a little manifold and it crushes and it expands and it goes into the catalytic converter that hasn't been modified. So it goes, raw, and it totally compresses. And then it goes into the stupidest freaking exhaust muffler that they've ever found. And so it's this reflective muffler banging all around and it goes out of a tube that's this big around that says Folgers Coffee on the back. And it goes, and you're like, wow. I'm waiting for that VTEC to kick in. Sorry. Oh, I know I'm being really mean. I'm sorry. But yeah, listen, guys, unless you're going through the supercharger, unless you're putting a big intercooler on there, unless you're dropping the internal operating temperature of that engine, unless you're dropping the intake charge of that engine with a big intercooler, and you got big boost coming in with big injectors, and you go through the water box, then by all means, drill that hole in the back of the ski and put a through hole exhaust on it. Okay. But if you're gonna put a tune, all right, flash it. Get a Map Tuner X, hit up Jerry, hit up Riva, or if you're gonna do like a K-Speed, a K-Speed ECU, or have the guys at JetX up in Canada, if you're a Canadian, have JetX do their reflash on it. Put a through hull on it. Reflash the ECU. You're leaving the supercharger stock. You're leaving the water box stock. Free flow exhaust out through the pump tunnel. You're picking up exhaust velocity. That's a plus. All right. You're advancing the tune and giving it more fuel. Great. Okay. You got a cold air kit on it, so a cold air box. So now you're getting more cool, dense air. You got a big intercooler on there. Now you got a really cold intake charge. Well, now I can go to a stage 1 tune. Great. Well, now you're shoving. I mean, let's get our cylinder head back. Ugh. So now let's say you've got bigger injectors, cold air kit, big intercooler. And you've reflashed the ECU. So now this intake runner is being crammed full of cold, dense, fuel-enriched air. Okay? Boom. Hot dog. Now, you don't plan on taking the cylinder head off. You're not doing any port cylinder head work. You don't need to. All right? But, so what's your exhaust going to do? You're going to have, as much as you've added intake charge, you're going to have increased exhaust charge. Okay? And the problem is, you typically don't have more cylinder atmosphere. Remember I talked about 6 to 7 times the outside atmosphere? Okay? You're not going to increase the cylinder atmosphere. Okay? That's only really if you increase the boost level. If you increase the boost level, you will have more intake charge. But you need to figure out how to evacuate, how to scavenge your exhaust out of there quicker. And a through hull ain't going to do it. All right? The water box is going to do it. Because your water box is the first wall you run into. Well, nope. The manifold is the first thing you're going to run into. The manifold's slowing you down. Not a lot of people are making manifolds. Now, what you can do, if you're a hot rodder and you're looking at making 500 horse, you can extrude hone the manifold. All right? And that's when they go in there and they media blast, or they get the little dingleberry on a drill and they go in there and they open it up and they take all the rough surfaces out and they try to ease some of the tight corners, and you can extrude hone your exhaust muffler, your exhaust manifold, but most of you guys aren't going to do that. I don't expect you to do that. But besides doing all that crazy stuff with the exhaust manifold, I'm looking at me and not at the camera, and I need to look at the camera. So I'm sorry, guys, because I'm looking at questions over here on my right. I can see my eyes darting around. So anyway, the best thing for you guys who are going whole hog is a water box, and I'd still say pump tunnel. All right, I'd still say the free flow exhaust. Now, the only benefit you're really getting from the through hull is there's less thing. And that's why a through hull, I would rather the negative atmosphere in the pump to scavenge exhaust out than have the noise of the through hull. Through hulls look cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to rob sales from anyone. Okay, through hulls are cool. But they make a certain noise, they make a certain, they have their appeal. So my biggest thinking is mechanical. How do I maintain exhaust scavenging? How do I maintain exhaust velocity given that I've increased my intake charge? All right. That's where you want to go. That's the biggest thing. So that is literally over an hour of me talking about exhaust. So here we go. All right. I guess I'm going to go through questions because I think I hit everything. Heads without exhaust don't make any power because they have no scavenging. 1-to-1 atmosphere. Negative atmosphere in the pump tunnel. What creates back pressure? Narrow diameter pipes, which is restrictive but high velocity, versus big diameter, low restrictive pipes have low velocity. Oh, it's not so much of a big deal when it comes to Watercraft because they're not changing the diameter. The diameter is the same whether it's a through hull or a free flow. The diameter hasn't changed. So, can the water box be done and beneficial without free flow? Ugh. I mean, would you want to do the water box and then have the plastic resonators? Because you're going to lose the velocity in the resonators. The quickest way to pick up velocity in the exhaust is to get rid of those resonators. All right, let's go back up and answer some questions and see if I didn't miss anything. Hey, Kevin from Melbourne, Australia. All right, Michael. Hey, good to have you, buddy. It's 40. Oh, it's 40 degrees today, so very hot. Go out and ride, dude. Don't listen to me. Watch this later. Watch this later and go out and ride. Snowed in London today. Hasn't snowed in Tennessee. We've had a couple flurries, but it never stuck. Good evening from Canada. Hello, everyone. New York. All right. I want one of those the sweatshirts are on sale. The hyperlink is at the top. If you guys want a hoodie, please go to our Teespring store. I think they're in 5 or 6 colors, and I think they go up to XX. I don't think they go triple. So unfortunately, they don't offer a XXX. All right. I know it won't. Here's Biker Miller. I know it won't add power, but I ordered an exhaust from Riva this week for my 2021 GP 1800R SVHO. Says it's going to ship in late February. The ski or the exhaust? The exhaust shouldn't take till February. Well, it's the 24th of... Hey, wait a minute. It's the 24th of January. If it's a week from now, it's February. But late... Okay, so a month... Then they're probably waiting on... Oh, they're probably waiting on the mandrel bend. They're probably waiting on the mandrel bent tubes. That's probably it. All right. Because I know that the exhaust outlets are CNC machined in Florida. All right. Gonna sound sweet, though. If you want to get real crazy, get the water box. It's not so much getting... Again, I mean, yeah, it's going to sound crazy. It's going to sound noisy. But the water box is what's going to keep the exhaust velocity moving. All right. Without the modified water box, your free flow is actually costing you velocity. That's the facts. It's causing you exhaust velocity. All right. Biker keeps writing. Yeah, I might if it isn't loud enough. Trust me, it's not. Oh, we got another super chat. KDH, thanks for sharing knowledge. Hey, my pleasure. KDH 302. Did I insult a Ford guy? I didn't mean to. All right, 302 is a stellar motor. All you have to do is talk to George Fulmer and Pernelli Jones because those guys were killing it with 302 bosses. All right. Let's see here. I want to go back to Biker's questions. Trust me, if it's not as much as you think. When it's open water, sound disperses a lot. Sound does carry over water more than it does land. That's just part of the refraction process. And everyone's going to hear you. All right. Let's see here. 2019 RX TX 300 stock. Better bang for the buck. SCOM or Map Tuner X for top speed? Ken. Okay, that's Ken Whitworth's question. It depends on how fast you want to go. I weigh 240 pounds, and on a 2018 RX TX with a half a tank, I did 75 on GPS. There's lighter guys out there doing 76, 77 with just a SCOM. SCOM is 100% reversible. SCOM goes on in about 45 seconds, and I'm not exaggerating. It's literally 45 seconds to install one of those things. If you just zip tie the little unit instead of drilling the bracket out and mounting the bracket. If you just zip tie it together, you can literally install a SCOM in 45 seconds. I'm not joking. It's crazy. Let's see here. But if you want to go faster, the Map Tuner is going to give you a better tune. I'll tell you what, dude. There's guys with RX TX 300s who are doing 80 with a tune. And, I mean, I wouldn't do anything without the crankcase breather kit, the engine breather, because of the blow-by on those engines, just to preserve your engine. Either way, if you're going to run a SCOM or a Map Tuner, please get the engine breather kit. I implore you. All right. Ken, please. All right. Let's see. Stay tuned. Man, those Map tuners are on an arm and an arm and a leg these days. Finding a tuner would be less costly. Stay tuned. That's stay tuned questions. His question. Well, interesting. It depends on what you want to do with your watercraft. Because if you're eventually planning on, if you want your dealer to do service on it, you're going to want to flash it back to stock, and that way they're none the wiser. But if you don't care, you're doing your own service and it's never going to see a dealer again, then send your ECU off to be flashed and never worry about it again. Have Jerry flash it for you. Have, a JetX will do it for you. Any one of those guys who are licensed through Riva, they'll map tune it like that, and it'll be trick, and you'll have access to all the library that Riva's got of all the tunes. All right. No worries, Kevin. I think you do a great job. I've always appreciated your neutrality. Oh, appreciate it, Jason. All right. Let's see here. Boy, I'm getting messages all over the place. You are drilling a hole in your ski for a free flow exhaust. No, you're drilling a hole for the through hull exhaust. The free flow exhaust goes out of the factory location, and it's 100% reversible. So you're not drilling there's no permanent holes in that thing. So, all right. Jamie says you don't need to drill a hole in the exhaust for free flow. Okay. Jamie already answered it. Stay tuned says back pressure is important. Back pressure is only important if back pressure is not important. I explained why. The only reason back pressure is important is if you're not running anything off of the back of a cylinder head and it's got nothing to scavenge exhaust from. That is an old wives' tale, and I'll tell you what, any mechanic worth his salt will slap you upside the head if you say, I need to have back pressure. Ask me how I know. I've literally been smacked in the head for saying back pressure. You're getting a workout and picking up. Nah, I need to work out. All right, let's see here. Mike Klein, can I do a through hull exhaust with an intake but without a tune? Yeah, but it's going to sound like crap and it's not going to do you any good. You're actually going to lose power, Mike. Yeah, VX Cruiser HO. You'll literally lose. You're going to lose scavenging. Mike, yeah, you can, but I wouldn't. Mike, you'll lose power. You might not feel it, but it's not what your engine was tuned to do. The best way to keep exhaust velocity is get rid of the resonators and get the free flow exhaust. I'm just being honest. Let's put this back down. All right. This thing's pressing down on my thigh. Okay. Let's ask some more questions. As a car guy to nothing, as a car guy too, nothing sounds as awesome as a V8 running above 4,500 RPM and climbing with a tuned exhaust. I'd agree. Well, it depends on where your torque curve is. Yeah, we can get in. I don't want to spend 10 minutes going down talking about torque curves, but I agree. If the headers are the correct length, the reverse pulse will arrive at the exhaust valve just as it's shutting and push a bit of fresh charge back into the chamber. Peter Johnson, you're 100% correct. The idea for that valve overlap is to have that pulse come in and get into the chamber, but it's meant to push the last little bit out. All right. You have fresh air coming in and it's mixing with the spent gases, and that last pulse is going to push that last little bit out. That's the idea. Now, mind you, this is fractions of a second, but that's the idea of it. Okay. Okay. No, I won't turbo or supercharge. It's nice to know. I'll have to skip that one. All right. Just learned something new for the Sea-Doos Yamahas. Thank you for this simple gearhead. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. All right. Vacuum helps the exhaust. Yes. Negative pressure. It's negative atmosphere. Excuse me. Negative atmosphere. That's what's happening in the pump tunnel. So there's a reason the engineers at Sea-Doo and the engineers at Yamaha are putting the exhaust in the pump tunnel. It's not just because it's noisy. All right. It's smart. All right. They want them to be friendly. They don't want, I got a message from someone saying that their Fish Pro was too noisy on their lake in like Wisconsin. I'm like, it's a 170 Fish Pro. But they're like, dude, I'm getting yelled at because it's noisy. Dude, they're pussycats. So we live in a world where people are a bunch of Karens and whiners. All right. Let's see here. Scott. Air is trying to fill in after traveling around the sides of the hill. Theoretically, as speed increases, so does efficiency. Yes. Yeah. You're again increasing velocity. All right. Doesn't the water box? Okay, we answered that one. Larry from New York. Hey, welcome. Piston burn. There we go. What is the purpose? I think we answered Luke's question. By the way, Luke, we're very happy that you were back at the end of The Mandalorian. Thank you very much. We prefer that Luke Skywalker to what Disney gave us a couple years ago. Let's see here. Mark Jones. Hey, man, I'm looking at a Sea-Doo RXP 215 and a Honda Aquatrax Turbo. Which is the better ski? What year is your RX? What years? And is it an Aqua? The Honda, is it an F12? Is it an R12? Is it an F15? You got to give me more than that. All right. Scott, I had a 2006 RXP 215. I had good luck, put 220 hours on it. No problems, did 69 miles per hour indicated. Yeah, hey, you know what? The original RXP 215 is literally what created Green Hulk. All right? That's what Jerry Gaddis got, was an RXP, a green and black RXP 215. Dude, I had so much fun on the 255s. The RXPX 255 was one of the most, like the 08, 09, 10. Those things were so much stinking fun. Oh my gosh. That's a true muscle craft. I mean, that ski, honestly, I want to say is a couple inches longer than an EX a Yamaha EX right now. All right. Billy, here's Billy Duplessis. I believe the Kawasaki exhaust filter helps prevent water vapor from getting to the valves and in turn, it's a stopgap. All right. Reduces yes, piston burn, reduces scavenging. All right. Scott. What not to say to a chick on a PWC? Yeah, okay. Douche. Did some looking. The exhaust filter is Kawasaki's basic. Okay. Piston burn. Mer Cruisers have the exhaust flap. Okay, covered that one. I did it. The Riva rear exhaust on my 2019 FX SVHO, and now the wife doesn't like to ride. Just saying. I cannot guarantee they don't. Last I looked inside Gina's, don't remember seeing any. I don't like PWCs that look like it's taking a leak nonstop. Hey, they all have engine pissers, John. And if you don't see that fluid, if you don't see that flow of water coming out, that means you don't have water circulating through your engine, and then you're in trouble. Even Sea-Doos have a pisser on the back. All right. I have a PX300 with a TDR water box and rear exhaust, and I only have drone when decelerating. Again, because you're going to be losing that exhaust velocity. And it's not because of the parts at all. That's just because you're decelerating, and so that deceleration is actually slowing down that velocity, and that velocity is going to actually reverberate inside of your exhaust system. All right, 1991 5.0-liter Mustang with off-road exhaust would have such a drone at 2100 RPM. It was obnoxious. I would be pretty dubious of a shade tree exhaust system. The engineers of Bombardier are pretty clever. No, I'm not saying Bombardier is having that at all. I was joking about me or a system that fluctuated. All right. Would manufacturers run turbo stock, or would the turbo exhaust be too hot for a PWC? Well, Honda ran turbos, and there's a couple things with turbos. Superchargers have parasitic loss, because the engine is having to manually turn that supercharger. But there's a lot less plumbing. There's a lot less exhaust plumbing. And if Watercraft are to get any smaller but maintain performance, you're going to have a lot of plumbing in there. All right. You're going to have your blow off. You're going to have your return pipe. You're going to have your intercooler. You got a lot of hardware. Okay. And all that hardware eats up a lot of space. And then they got to pass noise pollution laws. So they got to put big obstructive sound resonating exhaust on a turbo ski. Now you know why Honda's turbo was about that big around. It was tiny. It's absolutely, and their intercooler was like this big. All right. That's why. It's just too much room. It's too much room. Because look at the guys who are putting turbos on their skis. The exhaust is literally coming out underneath the back seat. All right, those big triples or the big, tulip, the big trumpets that are coming out of there. And why are they putting it out of there? Because they're using up all the other room where the water box and everything else used to be. That's the problem. You're running out of real estate. Okay. But thank you, Chris. That's a good question. Let's see. J. Lu Tan. J. Lu Tan. Hello from Philippines. Hey, all right. Coffee can Civics are acquired taste. So the exhaust on stock skis used no tuned collector at all. Seemed like a bit waste of easily recoverable power. Again, believe it or not, you look at the exhaust manifolds. The exhaust manifolds are almost a log style manifold. And that kind of sucks. All right. If there was someone out there making tuned exhaust manifolds and water boxes that could increase exhaust flow, dude, what's the first thing people do with their cars? Do a cold air intake, or they change the intake manifold. If you're an old car, you change your intake manifold and you put a big carburetor on it, or you put a better breather on there. But if you got a new car, you got a Challenger or a Mustang or a Camaro, you put a cold air kit on it, and you put like Corsa exhaust or MagnaFlow exhaust on there. First thing. Dude, why wouldn't you do the same with Watercraft? No one touches the exhaust. All right. Let's see here. Mike says, if you do the exhaust, should you do a ribbon delete on the Yamaha? I believe, yeah. Well, you should do the ribbon delete anyway, personally. That's a lot of obstruction. Next week, we talk intakes. No. No. We'll do something light and stupid next week. All right. Can the water box be done and beneficial without free flow? Again, you're going to run into the exhaust, that high velocity exhaust, which might be hotter coming out of a modified water box, going into the plastic resonators. So you're going to kill. Those resonators are number one for killing the velocity of your exhaust. Those are number one. Get rid of those as soon as you can. All right. Let's see here. What's your opinion on blow-off valves on SVHO engines? I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what your question is. All right. Let's see. TDR or Riva water box for an FX19. Which one is better? I don't know. I don't really know TDR. I haven't seen inside of either. I'd have to see inside to make a decision. That, and I'm, how they say like Californians are super anal about Mexican food. Besides that, which I am, I'm also anal about welds, and I'd have to see their welds. I judge a company by their welds. All right. What is the simplest design supercharger in PWC? The HKS Yamaha, the Yamaha Supercharger is that basic clamshell design, and it, to my understanding, has the least amount of parasitic loss, and it also produces the least amount of heat by friction. That's what I've been told. I don't know. I never put a heat gun on, but I've been told that the cleanest design right now is the HKS on the Yamahas. All right. Picked up I skipped ahead. Sorry. Picked up an RXTX over a GTX because wife liked the color more. Plus, I wanted to skip the IDF for any teething problems. Very happy with it so far. Got a catch can and a scom. Bad mother finger. Hey, that's pretty much exactly what I would do. If I was to go Sea-Doo, I would do two more things on your RXTX if you're still here. Pick up the sponsons. There he goes, right there. Pick up the sponsons and get the intake grate. Get the intake grate and the sponsons. And put the sponsons at minimum halfway down, if not number 4. I kept them at number 4, which is the second to lowest setting. Loved it. So intake grate, sponsons, scom, engine breather. You're groovy. That ski will be the most fun. You'll do 76, 75, 76, and you'll never lose the tail. You'll still bow hunt a little bit, but you should be in really good shape. I think you'll have one of the best setups. All right. Negative 20 Celsius in Valcourt. Oh, that sounds painful. Oh, that's like air that hurts. Will the 2022 GTX 300 be different from the 2021? No. Will prices stay this high? Yes. They're going to get worse. Prices are going to get worse, guys. I'm telling you, they're going to get worse. Everything's going up. Cost of petroleum is going up right now. For everyone outside of this country, I apologize. On behalf of America, we're morons, and we're very sorry. The smarter of us are very, very sorry for what America is going to do to the rest of this world. So, sorry. I wish I knew how to change it. All right, let's see here. 2017 GTR 230 took 7 SBT shims to get it aligned. Manual says no more than 5 millimeter. All mounts seem solid. Oh, you mean the motor mounts? Think it'll be fine. Are you saying that your motor mounts were misaligned? How did you check that? I'm curious. 7 shims under left-hand mount. Oh, that doesn't seem right. Okay, Ken says I have a Riva catch can. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, it's the clear bottle with the little K&N filter on it. That's what I'm talking about, Ken. All right. Honda F12 and 05 RXP 215. The Sea-Doo is going to be a lot more fun, dude. The RXP 215, dude. The RXP that hull was one of the best. Guy, what was it? 04 to 2012. That hull was one of the best. It was so much fun. Yeah, Mark, I got to tell you. Okay. Oh, the Honda was the 05. What year was the P? I mean, if it's still that hull design, then yeah. Just got the new GTX 300 Limited. It is stock. Should I get the catch can? Yeah, it's not going to hurt anything. It won't hurt anything, and all it is it's preventative. It's just, what is it, $50? Put it on. Put it on. Even if it's bone stock. I'll tell you what, I'd have your dealer put it on. Well, I don't think they would, but I'd put it on. I'd put it on in a heartbeat. I'd put it on in a heartbeat. There's a lot of crankcase pressure. There's a lot of blow-by. And you just don't want that crap going in through the intake manifold. You just don't. I know they're trying to, now mind you, the blow-by is unspent gasoline getting into the crankcase. And so they're trying to get that, that gas, that aerated gas back into the intake so that it can burn again. But you're getting more contaminants into the oil than you are burning and being efficient. So you're better off with the catch can. Just put the catch can on. All right. Did Planet send us another $5? Hey, thanks, man. I didn't even see that. All right. Piston burn. Turbo boats are so quiet. Screw boats are very loud. Same with cars on the drag strip. Yeah, but superchargers, dude. I'd go supercharger. That's me. Tuned exhaust would have to be water jacketed, very hard to make, and even harder to make reliable. It's true. It's expensive. You're casting. Yeah, it'd be a cast. It wouldn't be a hand-built header. Unless you built the header and then built a jacket, and then you had to water test it. You had to water test every header. They'd be expensive, but they'd be good. All right. That's why we get the log. Okay, you're right. Can you put a number between through hull and free flow? Can you put a number between through hull and free flow? What do you mean a number? A number of what? Brian, you got me stumped on that one. You got me stumped. Sorry. Carmine, is there more risk to removing the engine breather in the case of supercharger failure? Well, if you put a cold air kit with I'll tell you what, if you're concerned about water ingestion, which I can't imagine you would, but just in case, if you are concerned about it, and people have concerns, and I'm not going to tell you not to be concerned, but if you're concerned about putting a cold air kit on your supercharged ski, I would recommend getting a K&N filter, and they do have socks, like a nylon sock that goes over the filter itself that it won't let water in. You can literally take your filter with a sock on it and push it in a bathtub, and you won't get any water. So if you might want to consider one of those, if you're concerned. Because if you look at the water box on a ski, it's a labyrinth. It's just a bunch of chambers so that water can't get in. It's not that high tech. It's actually really silly. All right. Everyone riding around on these new skis, and I'm over here on my manual everything analog gauge FZS. I'll tell you what, dude. I love the gauges on the FZs. Loved every bit of I loved every inch of the FZ, except for the manual right-hand reverse. Besides that, I loved every single thing about the FZ. Oh, God, I love the FZ. FZ was so much fun. God, the FZ was cool. I loved the red face gauges. Oh, I loved them. And they got the job done. They worked fine. I'll tell you what, the stupid 4-bar gas gauge was dumb. All right, moving on. Gas about to get... Yeah, okay. We're not going to get political. Okay. That was using an SPT alignment tool. Okay, still talking about Yapful, his engine alignment. Wow. Now, were you seeing a lot of carbon debris? Like, you're seeing a big carbon kick out, a big carbon ring? Because if you were, then I'd say, yeah, you were prematurely wearing down your carbon ring. All right. All right. How legit was your story from 2017 on Polaris? Pretty damn legit. But I guess I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen anytime soon. Not anymore. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but any hope of Polaris coming back, I think, is blown out. Especially depending on what God, I don't want to make this about politics, guys. Sorry. I'm trying really hard. Okay. Without a catch can, all that crap coats your intercooler, making it very inefficient. Very true. All right. It's also getting in, when it gets past the intercooler, it's also getting into your valves. It's getting through, it's getting all through your intake. It's a mess. All right. Let's see. I'm going to skip Jamie's comment, even though I agree. Ken, 2019 RXTX stock, catch can. I weigh 180 pounds. Map tuner or SCOM? Which one? Ken, I already answered you. Depends on. I would do SCOM. I do SCOM, and then I get an intake grate, and I would get the sponsons. So 4 things on your ski: SCOM, catch cam, Pro Series Riva sponsons set at number 4, and the Pro Series intake grate. You'll handle better. You'll track better. You'll have better acceleration out of the gate, and you're still under warranty because you can take that SCOM off at any time, and no dealer will give you any sort of grief. I do that like that. All right. Billy, you're absolutely right about the comment regarding the Sea-Doo RXPs. They're the reason I still own my RXPX. No, Billy, it's because you're a pack rat. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm teasing. Hey, we got another one from COD Junkie. Awesome. Thank you. Great topic as always. Let's long haul Florida. Let's go. Blow by is usually a sign of piston ring. Well, it is usually, except for the fact that you get a lot more blow by on the new Ace engines because of the electroplated cylinders instead of the press-in cylinders. And we talked about that, I think, last week or the week before. All right. Now the FZs that you're saying that. Yeah, okay. New ski came in last week. Dealer ordered the GPHO instead of SVHO, so I have to wait some more. Have you heard of that happening? YZ145. I might be telling tales out of school, but I'll tell you a funny story that happened to Jerry. It's not funny. It actually really sucks. Jerry Gaddis ordered his GP SVHO and had been waiting for. Oh, he's already got the GP. He ordered his RXPX 300 through Sea-Doo, through corporate. All right, because he has connections through corporate. And corporate said, no problem. We're going to be sending it at this time to this dealer. He put up money. He was all good to go. And he gets a phone call. Or no, excuse me. The day comes that he's like, okay, good. My RXPX 300 is here. He calls the dealer. And they're like, well, we had someone who paid, who put a lot of money down 3 months ago. And that's before you. So we just sold him that ski. Well, he's like, dude, this one's for me through corporate. So he gets the owner of the dealership on the phone and just tears him a new one, which I don't blame him. I'm surprised he didn't drive down there and knock his teeth out. But they're like, well, as soon as we get a new one, we'll send it to you. And he's just like, you a-holes. So unfortunately, the dealers are running around like a chicken with their head cut off because the skis are so intermittent in showing up. So unfortunately, that kind of sucks. All right. Let's see here. Ski. Okay, this is Japful. Ski has 130 hours. No wear carbon. Whoa, really? Just checking for peace of mind and putting a new carbon seal kit in it. Okay. You're doing a lot of work, dude. Does have dust from carbon seal, but nothing extreme in my opinion. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I don't have an answer for you, man. If you're already doing the seal, if you are going to go ahead and do the seal kit on that, take a lot of pictures of the carbon ring itself. Look at the wear pattern on it. Because if the wear pattern isn't straight, if it's cocked like that, then you know your engine was misaligned. If it's flat, then your engine was not misaligned. So that is a curiosity. All right. Michael asks, is Honda coming back? I don't have any hard confirmation. I can only speculate. My money's on no. Not unless something miraculous happens. But not with what's going to happen to this. Because petroleum is used for everything. Petroleum is used for everything. And with if this country is no longer a net exporter of petroleum and we're buying it from OPEC again, everything goes up. We go from $20 a barrel to $80 a barrel. Don't know what to tell you. All right. Kevin, did you see that ski carnage story about those 2 mega waves? We actually have an article coming out about the guy who got hurt with his back, broke his back. Yeah, we have a story coming out. I think Tuesday or Wednesday, I think, on that. All right. Make a second channel for politics. I'm trying not to do it here. I'm sorry. Ken, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm glad to help out. All right. I get blow by after eating Chinese. Okay. Kevin, never heard about a catch can for Yamahas. Needed. I'll tell you what. You know what I got? I just installed is the engine breather kit. The engine breather kit for the SVHO engines. And all you do, it's so simple. Dude, it takes 30 seconds to install it. You literally take the gray rubber hose that goes into the intake the cold air intake tube. It's got a little pinch style hose clamp. Pinch it, pull the hose off. Riva gives you a little rubber boot that goes over there. You can zip tie it on. Move the hose over the other direction, point it towards the back end of the engine. Put a little K&N filter on it, hose clamp, zip tie it to one of the brackets for the engine cover, and all it's doing is it's pulling in outside atmosphere. It's not meant to push out. All right, it's believe it or not, there's negative. Here's this word again. There's negative atmosphere inside of the Yamaha SVHO crankcase. And that negative atmosphere is it's the opposite of the blow. Oh, man. I'm already an hour and 45 minutes into this. But, yes, there is one for Yamaha, but it's an engine breather kit. It's a crankcase breather. All right. Yeah, I got my new Superjet with no issues, but dealer is saying Yamaha screwed up on the GP. Sent the wrong one. As long as I get one, I'll be okay, I guess. Well, I'm glad you got the Superjet. I hope you enjoy it. I really like the new Superjet. I thought they did a great job with it. All right. When is the new Kawasaki 310R, maybe a 320R with brakes coming out? There's no need. Kawasaki will not be doing more horsepower anytime soon because there's no contenders. So currently they're king of the hill. Everything being considered, the brakes are probably being pushed back to 2023 instead of 2022. That's my money's on 2023. The that and a new addition to the Ultra line. That's a non-supercharged addition to the Ultra. All right, let's see here. Any supercharger maintenance needed for the FX SVHO? Not really that I've seen. Not really any. They're not eating up clutches like the previous pre-300 superchargers for CD, like the 260s, 255s. They were eating up clutches, but no, not with the Yamaha. I've already seen prices in auto parts and music instruments go up due to increased prices. Yeah, and it's going to keep going. Shims, okay, Peter writes, shims ain't too bad if you're using the original mounts, as they have dropped a bit with age. That is very true. Yeah, you will have sagging with the rubber motor mounts. All right. Looks like I'm going to order my GTX Limited before things get even more crazy. Yeah, if you're hot to trot, dude, maybe act now. All right, guys. It's been an hour and 46 minutes. I'm worn out. Thanks again for tuning in. Hopefully, we got some good information. This is probably some of the most notes I've ever had on one. I had a bunch of stuff that I'm like, I have to talk about this, have to talk about this, have to talk about this. Oh, I got to talk about this. So hopefully we were able to educate some of you guys. You got a better idea of how your exhaust system works and how to optimize your exhaust system. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Guys, thanks again. If you do want a shirt, if you do want if you want a hoodie, you want a shirt, we have shirts for women, shirts for kids, shirts for regular guys, shirts for big guys, shirts for little guys. So again, thanks again. We really appreciate it. Here's the big thing, and I'm sure most of you guys have, but please, 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 please subscribe and please like. All right. YouTube is acting a lot like Twitter and Facebook. And if you're not getting likes on your videos and if you're not getting subscriptions, they're burying you. And we really want to be able to have people who are looking for education on personal watercraft tech to be able to find us. So please, if you like what we're doing, if you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe to the video. Please like the video. Go back into the channel and like videos you haven't liked that you've seen, or like ones you haven't seen. I don't really care. But also subscribe to the channel. And if you really want to be my best friend, share some videos on whatever social media you're on. But guys, thanks again. We're going to tune out. I hope you have a good week. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.